Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Klein Zoka, and welcome to another My Thoughts On. And since Spies in Disguise, the new Blue Sky animated film, is now out in cinemas, and I'll be seeing it this Saturday. Excuse me. And to celebrate the release of this film, I thought, why not talk about a few of Blue Sky's previous films that are not related to, Ice Age. And I thought, what can I talk about? And I've talked about Ferdinand, I've talked about Ice Age, and I thought, I know, what about the two Rio films and the Peanuts movie? And I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about these three films, because I haven't talked. I haven't talked that much about Blue Sky at all. I've talked a little bit about DreamWorks. It's mostly Disney, Pixar, Illumination, and Sony, but not. I haven't talked much about Blue Sky, so let's talk about the first Rio movie. This came out in 2011. I didn't see it when it came out. Not sure why. I did really want to see it, but I never had the chance. And years later, I realised people actually really enjoy Rio. They say it's colourful, funny, big, heartfelt. And I did see the film back in 2014 when where I needed to watch the film in order to go and see Rio 2. So there's that, but it's been a while since I've seen actually both films. So I thought, because Spies in Disguise is already out, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to talk about it, So, anyways, what is the first Rio about? Well, it's a story about Blue, who's voiced by Jesse Eisenberg. He can't fly, and after meeting this other Blue McCall named Jewel, who's voiced by Anne Hathaway, they both are stuck together. One wants to be free into the jungle, and the other one wants to go back to Linda, Blue's owner, who's voiced by Leslie Mann. However, this cockatoo and these smugglers want to capture them and sell them for money, but they get help from a couple of birds, and they have to try and survive in Rio and try not get captured by the smugglers, while Tulio, this wildlife expert and a little too much into birds expert, accompanies Linda, and they both go out looking for Blue and Jewel before they get captured by the smugglers, and they get help from a few feathery friends. Now, this film has a lot of cliches that I am really not a big fan of. Blue Sky is not really well known for original stories like with Pixar, or maybe a little bit with DreamWorks, but The plot execution is pretty much straightforward, simple, a bit cliched, and pretty predictable. The humour, while funny, is mainly kind of for little kids. There are maybe a few adult jokes, but they don't really... I wouldn't say they land, but they do get a little smile, a little chuckle out of me. It does also have musical numbers, even though I wouldn't say this film is a musical, at all. But it does have, I think maybe one musical song. No, actually no, two. There's the one called Rio in Rio, or Life in Rio, whatever the fuck it's called. There's Nigel's song, then there's that Carnival song, which was, for Blue and Jewel to, get lovey, if you know what I mean. And that's about it. There's nothing spectacular, nothing really stands out in this film at all. It's all very basic and standard. But the thing I will say about the film is that it's not boring. It's not. It's not necessarily annoying. It does know how to take its time with its characters, like especially with Jill and Blue and their chemistry and relationship. It doesn't feel forced or rushed. It feels genuine and it feels like it's taking its time. But sometimes the film can drag on a little bit with their scenes, depending on what it is, whether it's comedy or or it's just there for padding, just to fill up the running time. But I wasn't bored. The film's action packed at times. There's a really fun battle. There's some pretty decent chase scenes, and it does have energy. It has really big comedic energy, but sometimes it can get a little overbearing and a little bit annoying. But it was, it's fine. It's nothing too big or nothing too major. It does have heart to it. You do care about these two blue macaws. It does get emotional at times and a little bit sad. And the carnival scene is great. So I'm a little bit mixed with the plot execution on Rio. It's straightforward, simple, childish. Kids will easily just watch it just because there's things happening, but it's not boring or anything like that. I can see adults enjoying this, or just with the family, or even on their own. They can actually just have fun with it. This is directed by Carlos Sadanos, who is known for just making these pretty, watchable kids' films, and he did Ferdinand in 2017, which is. And this is not. And I know this is made by Blue Sky, but they both feel a little bit similar in terms of humour, tone, and directing. That's not a bad thing, it just feels inconsistent. But I will give it this though. The comedy is decent, the action is okay, even though there isn't that many of it. The musical numbers are pretty beautiful. The film is not boring, it's fun, entertaining. It does drag on a little bit and it does get a little bit annoying at times, but I don't know, I thought the story had a good concept to it and it was paid off pretty decently. So I thought the writing and the directing was, I thought it had a decent purpose, and I thought Carlos Sadanos directed the film pretty well, and the team behind it. So the story is good. It's good. Animation. Well, if Blue Sky is not really the best at writing a original story or executing their plots, their animation is pretty much the best thing about the company itself. This is a really gorgeous looking film, and they do capture the look of Rio incredibly well. It's bright, it's vibrant, it's beautiful, it has so much. It feels real in Rio. See what I did there. It makes me. It really does make me want to go there because it looks so beautiful and so bright. And the characters, they all have these unique and pretty tidy designs. Blue and Jill they look identifiable, and I love the fur texture on them. They look really beautiful as blue macaws. The other birds like Pedro, Nico, Raphael, they look great. And even Nigel looks a bit messed up, but he looks really cool. The humans have this very cartoony design that is a good mixing blend of realism and cartooniness that actually works in the world of this film. And I can buy that. The other animals look pretty solid too, like Louise the bulldog and the monkeys that assist Nigel. The movements are pretty cartoony, but they are sometimes a bit subtle. Actually, no, the more I think about it, the animals are even more subtle than the humans. Yeah, the humans can move a little smooth as well, but they can move quite cartoony, which is fine, but I don't know. I think the animals have a more realistic and nice movement to them, and and all these characters have like big expressions, and they look big, and they look pretty funny in these expressions too. But sometimes the physical comedy can be a bit too much, and the animation can be a little over the top, a little too far. Not offensively, but it can go just a few steps beyond just bonkers, you know? Um, but yeah, the animation in Rio is gorgeous. It has great character designs. It looks pretty. It looks beautiful. It's a very pleasant film to look at. So yeah, if Blue Sky's not the best at making a story, they are great at making beautiful visuals. Characters and acting. Well, unlike the animation, which was probably the biggest high point in the film, the characters are probably the weakest part. They're not awful, and I like most of them, but they're nothing unique and nothing original. You know, I like Blue. I think Blue's a pretty good main character. He's likable, he's relatable, very understandable, and I could see people really liking him, and I thought he was, you know, he was nice and charming. Yeah, a bit snarky and a bit of a show off to Jewel, but likable. Jewel's probably my favourite character here. I thought she was lovely, she was badass, she's cool. Her chemistry and her relationship with Blue is believable, funny, cute, and beautiful, actually. Like I said, it takes its time with them two to like each other. It feels more believable than rushed and fake. Well, rushed and forced, I mean, not fake. I think they both work well together, but personally I like Jill the best. Blue's good, but nothing great. I like Nigel. I thought he was a pretty cool villain. I thought he was menacing, he's funny, cynical a little bit, and his song as well is just great. I bet you know the people who made the film had more fun with him than anything else in this film. But I really liked him. I really did like Nigel a lot. Raphael was pretty helpful to the team. I liked his presence in the film, and I thought he was funny, charming, and you know, he was amusing for them too. And I thought he was a great help. Pedro's fine. He's all right. He's mainly just kind of there for comedy, and his comedy didn't really land, and I will explain in a little bit why. Actually, Nico I thought was a little funnier, a little bit more charming in him. Louise is fine. He's not in the film for very long, but he can be a little bit funny. But his point, like I know he's supposed to be there to help Jewel and Blue get out of the chains, but it was only like for like 1 or 2 minutes, and his point in the film is useless. But he is funny in the end, so I will, you know, exactly just give him that. The smugglers are fine. Marcel's pretty threatening, but the other two, like I think for oh crap, uh, Amando or was it Fernando and Tipo? They're both all right, but they're not very funny. The little kid, I think, name is Amarvando, or I don't remember. He's the one who helps the smugglers get Joe and Blue. He's also the kid that quickly turns from a villain, even though he technically wasn't a villain, to a hero. Linda, who is Blue's owner, is sweet and caring, and I really liked her a lot, and I thought her chemistry with Blue is cute. Tulio can be a little over the top with his bird obsession, but he's helpful, just like Linda and some of the other characters, but I don't know, he didn't really stand out to me that much. I mean, he's fine, and I think he's likable, but there's not really much to him, and he's kind of weird. The voice acting is fitting, for the most part. Most of these actors fit their character roles extremely well. Like Jesse Eisenberg as Blue, I thought he played, he's very nervous and a little bit naive, Blue McCall quite well. His voice does actually fit something quite cartoony and even scared. I think he can be really good in more animated films if he wished to do more, and I thought he was quite good in this film. Anne Hathaway is gorgeous in this film. She is, her voice is lovely. She voiced Jewel and her personality quite well. I thought her singing voice was great as well, and I loved her singing voice. And that's saying something because she was in Les Miserables. Jermaine Clement as Nigel is, well, he's great. He's funny, he's big, threatening. He fits the voice of Nigel well, just like his character from Moana. George Lopez just voices Raphael, who's fine. He's perfectly fine. He does fit him, and he's quite comedic, but there's nothing special about his performance. Jamie Foxx is surprisingly good as Nico, and I think his voice acting is quite good. Tracy Morgan is just a delight as Louise, and I like hearing his voice in every film that he's in, whether it's animated or not. I thought he was great. Leslie Mann is a pretty lovely and charming choice for Linda, and I think she plays the role quite well. Even the guy who voices Tulio and the other people who voices the smugglers, I think they're quite good, and they do sound like they're from Brazil. And also, I'll give it this, I like how they get people who sound like they're from the country or even are from the country to sound like Brazilian people and not just American people, which is weird. The only one I thought was a little bit off was will.i.am as Pedro. I mean, he's okay as playing as this very hippity-happity little bud, but he just sounds like will.i.am playing a bird who sounds like will.i.am. You could have picked anyone. You could have picked like Michael Bublé or anyone like that, but will.i.am's a weird choice, and this was back when Black Eyed Peas, I think, was kind of getting off the grid, and I think will.i.am was a little bit big back then, but knowing Blue Sky is just kind of well known for bringing in celebrities in their films, which shows because John Cena's in like freaking Ferdinand, and Jessie J was in the worst Ice Age film. If you know what I mean, then 2 points. So yeah, the characters are funny and charming enough, and likable. The two main leads are lovely, and even the voices that provided them are pretty helpful, except for one. These characters do feel like they're actually flying like Blue, in a positive way. On a side note, John Powell's score is just gorgeous. I've been a huge fan of his music for many years, whether it's good or bad. When I say good or bad, I mean the film itself, not his score. His score is amazing. It's beautiful. It does have that How to Train Your Dragon sound to it, which makes it better. I really liked his score in this film and in the sequel as well. Yeah, I like Rio. I don't love it, but I like Rio. It's not as great as like the first Ice Age or it is better than Ice Age Collision Course, and I would probably say it's a lot better than, actually it's better than most of the Ice Age sequels and Robots, but it still has flaws, but it's still a pretty good animated film from Blue Sky. Rio is a pretty fun family film that's not Pixar, but it is pretty good. It's pretty fun. It's cute. It's a little bit funny. It's decently executed. The two leads are pretty funny and likable with good chemistry. The animation is gorgeous and it has a style. The voice acting is pretty solid for the most part. And I love the score by John Powell. Although the film can feel a little too familiar, a little too cliched, predictable, and a little bit childish. And Blue and Jewel can be a bit unlikable at first, and they have the whole characters who don't like each other at first, but as the film proceeds, they start to like each other, which is a bit cliched, but the chemistry is what makes them believable at best. And will.i.am's a very odd choice to play this character. So, Carlos Sedano's, good job. It's not a perfect film in a way, but I did enjoy it and I wasn't bored. So I'll give it a 7.6 out of 10. I think that's pretty fair. So we got Rio 1 out of the way. Let's get on to Rio 2. So, Rio 2. This is the 2014 film that takes place after the first Rio. And in this sequel, Blue and the gang are back, and this time they're heading off to the Amazon. And while that's going on, Linda and Tulio are out there, just looking for some pretty exotic and rare creatures, and they come across even more blue macaws. Yes, there's actually more than 2. And while that's going on, there is a boss that's out there to cut down this rainforest for reasons, and Nigel is back to get revenge on Blue, and then Pedro and Nico decide to do this singing competition while they are there, and Blue and Jewel have to try and Blue has to get used to this jungle life, while, Jewel and the kids, Tiago and Carlos, have to, having fun. And it's one of them sequels, especially in animation. You've probably seen one of these sequels before. A group of characters all go together. They go to this one area, right? I've seen this before. Like characters, they all go together. They go to this one area. When they get there, they all get separated, and they got different things to do. At least in the first film, there was only like 3 things going on, and the main point was for Blue and Jewel to escape, and try and find their way out. Jewel wants to go back into the jungle, and Blue wants to be with Linda, and at least with the smugglers and with Linda and Tulio. I mean, it's not very well timed, but at least it's not the selling point, it's not the main focus, but at least it has decent screen time. Here, they had ideas for the first film with the subplot, and they thought, hey, why not put all of that in this film? And oh boy, the story, the execution is a pretty big mess. And one of the many things that I actually hate about these animated films, and even if some of them do it well, is filler. This film doesn't really have a real plot. I mean, yeah, it does. It's Blue trying to get used to the jungle life, but there are other things going on. And for the most part, you just can't really, what's the word? You can't keep hold, you can't, focus on all of them, because when it comes back, you just kind of you kind of just go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And this is the same problem that Despicable Me had, Despicable Me 2, 3, sorry. They go to this big place and they all just kind of hang around, and then there's conflict and sure. And most of the subplots are pointless. The only ones that were somewhat interesting, and probably the only things I actually cared about, was Blue getting used to the jungle life while, Jules trying to say to him, try and get used to it, have fun. And also, there's a lot of conflict in the movie. Some of it is not easy to follow. The tone of the film actually kind of changed from the first film. The first film was simple, slightly funny, and it had emotion. Yeah, there was conflict, but at least it was understandable, and it wrapped up things nicely. Here, there's too many. Nigel wants to get revenge on Blue for him taking him down, and he's in love. And there's this poison frog voice. Oh, I've forgotten his name, but she's actually in a few animated films. This one's name is Gabby. And she is in love with Nigel, which is very strange, but it's weirdly entertaining. I know you probably heard this from other people, but Nigel, Gabby, and Charlie, the anteater subplot, is probably the only thing I actually legit enjoyed about this sequel. It's funny. It's funny. It has a point to it, I guess. It's weirdly entertaining, and it's kind of thanks to the acting and the character. And Nigel does steal the show in this sequel. I thought he was legit great. Everything else, though, I mean, I like what they're doing with Blue, trying to get used to the jungle life, but at the end of the day, it's one of them sequels that's like you're kind of getting tired by. And I'll be honest, the film wasn't all that funny. It really wasn't. The film wasn't super. The first film wasn't super funny, but it had some good laughs. But this one, just a few chuckles here and there. I mean, probably when I first saw it, I actually kind of laughed a lot more. But since it's been like 6 years since the sequel was released, and they haven't planned anything for a third film, and I can see why. The film moves too fast, and I like the energy here, but it doesn't feel as smooth or natural as the first film. And they had to throw in a freaking environmental message, which is fine, but they just kind of. Actually, the subplot with the big boss who wants to take down the forest is kind of like a last minute thought. They thought, this film's not long enough. How can we make it even more padding? And they said, environmental message, and that's what they did. I mean, yeah, most of these things do come together in the climax, but it feels very disjointed and all over the place. By the end of it, I mean, I didn't hate it, but I felt really tired. It was like, it is for kids. Families I can see enjoying. Adults I think will probably get bored by it quickly. I wasn't bored. I was just kind of getting a little bit of a headache from this a little bit. Carlos Sardano's clearly just wanted to cash in on the first film, which was, I don't know if that was a big hit or not, but he at least he showed he cared about the first film. With this one, he just kind of cashed in on what made the first film great and just did it again with more padding, not many funny moments, more confusing conflicts, and just stuff that only kids will enjoy. It has things that they'll just sit there and watch instead of taking it all in. Now, I'm not going to say the writing and direction is bad. It isn't. It's just feels very disjointed, and they could have put in a little bit of more care into it. Oh, and by the way, did I mention that this film is actually an actual musical? Granted, the songs like Poisonous Love, I Will Survive, and Beautiful Creatures are highly memorable, and I think they're great. But even that doesn't go anywhere. They did, again, just like what they did with the login subplot, they just left it in there at the last minute for, again, padding. That's all I can really say about this film's execution in plot, humour, entertainment. Is just padding. Again, I wasn't bored or angered by it. It wasn't awful, but its purpose was just to be distraction. Distracting kids are watching it, and that's what the that's what the last two Ice Age sequels did, and I'm really tired of it. So, Carlos Sardano's, I'm sure you did a decent job with this, but it showed you didn't care that much about it, unlike the first film. Sorry, man, no hard feelings. Animation. Now we're talking. The only thing that remains great from the first film applies here. The animation. It has improved a lot, even though the animation in the first film is also amazing. But this time they're in the jungle, in the Amazon jungle, and it looks beautiful. The backgrounds are very vibrant. It looks real. I love the textures on the characters, especially on the animals, and they look really, really good. Like Charlie the Anteater, and even his movements, although a little bit similar to Scratch in a way, but, it's very cartoony, but it still has a hint of realism. You've got some new characters, even new blue macaws, who have these nice blue fur textures. The movements when they're flying feels natural, and when it comes to the song numbers, I'm going to go and say with all of them, Poisonous Love, Beautiful Creatures, and I Will Survive, they look colourful, they fit in the moment. especially Beautiful Creatures, which is probably my favourite song in the entire film. I absolutely love that song. Gabby, who is this poisonous frog, her movement and her design is fantastic, and I love the way she looks. Nigel still has the very, over the top and very villainous move to him, and the rest of the characters still have very nice movement and nice character designs. So I'm happy that they still have what makes the first film visually stunning in this film, and it honestly, I think this film looks a lot better than the first film. And don't get me wrong, I think the first film visually looks amazing, but I don't know, this film just looks so much more beautiful. So overall, no issues at all. I mean, the human designs I didn't mind in the first film, but in here, with the new ones like Big Boss and these loggers, they look a bit weird. They look like they came out of a Disney film, if you can even say that. It kind of does. No, not Disney. No, Pixar. They look like they came from a Pixar film. And that's fine and all, but it's a bit distracting, honestly. But overall, the animation is just another beautiful sight in the Amazon. Characters and acting. And this film just went into the Ice Age territory of too many characters. I mean, I don't mind too many characters as long as it just focuses on just a few, then that's fine. Toy Story 4 only had Toy Story 4 had lots of characters, but there were a good handful that they do focus on, but the ones who are there are either there for purpose, storytelling, comic reliefs that are actually funny, while the gang that we know and love are kind of in the background, but we know them very well. And they have a purpose in the sequel as just kind of there, sure, but at least we know them for 4 films, and that's saying something, and we know them very well. Rio 2 is kind of the opposite. There are new characters in the film that only serve as conflict or as story purposes. Yeah, okay, let's just get this over with. Blue is actually a little more unlikable here. In the first film, he was naive, goofy, scared, but you can relate to him. You can easily like him, and he's quite endearing. Here, he kind of is, but he's still the show-off, cynically, not cynical, but snarky, always knows what he's doing, even though he's not always right, guy. And he's easily not very likable. He just doesn't, he's in the jungle, he's supposed to like it, but he's really not, and you can't really, I mean, I can understand the whole fish out of water story where a character goes into a new environment and he doesn't know what or anywhere is, but he doesn't seem to really enjoy it, and I don't know, he kind of disappointed me, really. Jill's alright, she's not as great as she was in the first film, but I still like him a lot more than Blue, to be honest. Raphael, Pedro, and Nico are purely pointless in this plot. I mean, Raphael does tell him something important, but that's it. They're both there for that contest thing, which, well, funny, I suppose, but doesn't go anywhere. The kids, who are Bia, Tiago, and Carlos, are cute and they're memorable, but that's it. They're just the cute kids. You got one, Bia, who is the smart one. You got Carlos, the oldest one, who doesn't really care and just likes music. And Tiago is the mischievous, energetic one. And, I liked them. They weren't annoying, but they're just kind of bland and forgettable. Eduardo, who's voiced by Andy Garcia, is Joel's father, and he's actually pretty good. He's actually likable. He has a point. You can see why he's teaching Blue all this stuff, and I enjoyed him. I thought he was really good. Roberto, who's voiced by Bruno Mars, which is a really weird choice, he's good. I think he's actually, I think he's quite charming, really, and he's not just the guy who's going to steal Joel out of Blue. And I'm glad they didn't go with the whole ex or handsome character who tries to steal the already loving wife of a husband. I'm glad he's just kind of there just to be, himself and look after his family. That's good. I like that. Um, Tulio and Linda are also pretty pointless. I was confused really because, they've been. Because the point is, does Blue want to stay here with his family or go back to Linda and Tulio? But also by the end of the film, and this is also concerning Linda and Tulio. I was actually confused with if I get if they're just there to look for the McCalls and try to look for Blue, but they're not in the film for very long, and their interaction with Blue is like 2 or maybe 1 minute, which is weird because I thought that was part of the whole film. Their friendship, their chemistry, and now they're just moving into the Amazon, and now I don't know. This is kind of a confusing film to be honest. They're funny, I guess, but they don't serve any point. Then you got the other type of McCaws. I don't remember what they're called, but there's like Felipe, who's like this jerkish leader. You got Big Boss, who's the main human antagonist, who's threatening but kind of stupid. And then you have the only two characters I thought were legit great, besides Eduardo, Jill, and maybe Roberto, is Nigel and Gabby. Oh, and Charlie's funny, but he's nothing amazing. Nigel, at the very least, still feels like he is the same character from the first film. At least he's still funny, devious, charming. He has a great song number. He is still just himself. Gabby's also just a really cool character too, and the whole frog is in love with a bird is weird, but it's weirdly entertaining, and it makes it even more funnier thanks to these performances by these actors. So I actually kind of wish the whole film was about them, or if they made a short film about how Nigel. I mean, they do kind of show how Nigel survived the plane crash from the first film, but if they did it as a short film, and then Blue and the family might appear near the end, that would have been better. Actually, come to think of it, why wasn't this a TV show or shorts? This would have worked better with all these subplots. The voice acting is still good; it still remains there, but it just sounds like everyone was just. It sounds like everyone was tired. Jesse Eisenberg, I still really like as Blue. He still fits his role well. Anne Hathaway's really good. will.i.am, I'll admit it's a little bit better than in the first one, but he's still a weird choice. Jamie Foxx is good. George Lopez, you name it. Oh, I forgot, Louise is in the film, but he's only in it at the beginning and ending of the film. And that's it. That's really it. Tracy Morgan is still funny as heck. Andy Garcia as Eduardo is, he's quite smoothing and charming. Bruno Mars is surprisingly great as Eduardo. Honestly, what is it with these films, including like singing celebrities, wrestling celebrities, people who have no experience in voice acting? It's weird, but I don't know, I kind of appreciate it. And Bruno Mars is not bad, he's pretty good, but he could have been played by anyone. Jermaine Clement as Nigel is still charming, and the actress whose name, I forgot her name, she was in freaking. She was in My Little Pony the movie as Starlight, she was in The Star as that mouse thing. She's really good as Gabby. I thought she was really, charismatic, funny. She has a great singing voice too. She fits the character well. Unfortunately, the characters are a bit of a mixed bag. Most of them are pointless, not very funny or memorable, while there are a few that are funny, caring, entertaining, and memorable. And thanks to some good voice acting, it doesn't make the characters who are pointless bad, it just makes them useless. I just kind of wish all of them were, better than the rest. On a side note, though, John Powell's score is still amazing. I mean, granted, it's not as amazing as like How to Train Your Dragon or anything, but it's still gorgeous music, and he does put effort into music, and at least that's nice. And I do like the songs also, so that's not, that's not, at least the music hasn't changed. Yeah, I actually really liked this film when I was like 13, and this is actually the film that got me into reviewing films and actually becoming a critic. Same with Book of Life. Both of them are actually what got me back into watching these films, especially animated films. But after looking at it now, yeah, this movie's not that great. It used to be when I was like 13, but now looking back at it, yeah, this movie's it's fine. It's fine. I'm not going to bash the film. I'm not going to sell the DVD. And by the way, I still have the DVD from 2014. I had this DVD for 6 years. How about that then? It's not awful. I am not going to forget about it completely, but it is very problematic. It has too much going on. The humour is a little less funny than it was in the first film. Yeah, it has good action and a pretty fun third act. It does kind of wrap up a bit too quickly without time or care. The animation is still really beautiful. Most of the characters are pointless, unfunny, and not very memorable. But for those who are memorable, are funny, memorable, I say that word too many times, and are fun, and they have personality. It's just the good voice acting and the beautiful music and the great songs, but this film's just kind of all over the place. It's not as bad as like Shrek the Third or like Cars 2 or anything like that. This is better than Cars 2. This is on the same level as Minions, a film that is just mainly made for like little kids or families. But unlike Minions, which ones I think is better? I actually like both of them equally, but I like Rio 2 a little better because it's better animated, it has good songs, but to be fair, Blue Sky and Illumination do sound a bit the same with their humour and all that. So I'm going to give it a 6.9 out of 10. Again, I don't hate this film, I just don't really... Well, I mean, I kind of like it, but I don't love it, let's say. 6.9 I think is a very, very fair rating. So yeah, those are the Rio films. They're really not Pixar, are they? They're far from terrible, but they could have been a lot better. I like the first Rio a little bit. Rio 2's fine. I will rewatch the first Rio anytime. Rio 2 I will probably watch as just something that's fun. Despite how problematic it is, I will rewatch Rio 2 as just a fun animated film. Despite its flaws, but yeah, the first Rio is better. So there you go. Next up, I will be talking about the Peanuts movie, and that will be separate. And now we're going to see if this is actually the best Blue Sky film yet. Until Spies in Disguise, but after the state that Blue Sky has got themselves into, I highly doubt it. So if you have seen both of them or one of them, let me know what you think of them below. Oh, excuse me. Do you think they're good, bad, decent? Do you want to see them? Let me know below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Until next time, bye for now.